After she healed a Mafia boss's wounds, 200 loyal followers surprised her with incredible revenge. Emma never expected to find herself in this predicament. The gritty urgency of the urban hospital pulsed around her, but her heart raced for a different reason. She'd just stitched up Vincent, the notorious Mafia boss, after a violent altercation left him bloodied and bruised. As he lay there on the hospital bed, she looked beyond the tattoos inked on his skin, the scars betraying a life of crime, and saw a man lost in pain. It was a moment of pure humanity, vulnerability wrapped in the hardest of shells, and somehow, that connection shook her to her core. Each day in her late 30s, Emma balanced the weight of long shifts with the tender love of motherhood. Her days were filled with endless routines, and her greatest joy came from the laughter of her 2 children. But today, that laughter was clouded by worry. The struggle to support her family loomed large, yet deep within, she felt an engine of hope. Picking up the pieces after long shifts as a devoted nurse had always been her routine. But this time, it was different. The whispers around the neighborhood circulated like wildfire. Neighbors condemned her for even tending to a criminal. She has lost her way, they muttered, eyes filled with judgment. Many viewed her compassionate heart as a betrayal, and with every passing moment, friendships turned to fractures. Isolation wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. It hurt more than she cared to admit. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma watched Vincent's transformation from a wounded beast to something softer, she began to see a world beyond the chaos. He shared stories of his childhood, revealing a boy desperate for love in a neighborhood harsh with steel and concrete. In return, she let him glimpse her own struggles, moments when bills piled up and dreams danced just out of reach. A bond formed, stronger than either had anticipated, but it was shadowed by the implications. Then came the land developer, a wolf in sheep-esque clothing, intent on bulldozing the neighborhood for profit. Emma knew that if she didn't stand tall, the very place she called home would be erased forever. Her heart raced again, not from fear, but from the catalyst of community. She envisioned her kids growing up surrounded by familiar faces and smiling neighbors. Before she could gather her thoughts, Vincent appeared at her door. "I'm here to help," he declared, flanked by 200 of his loyal followers, eyes focused with determination. A weight settled heavily on her chest. Could she truly accept their help despite the astonished gazes of her neighbors? What would come of her choice? In that moment, Emma grappled with the narrow line between right and wrong, friendship and betrayal. Knowing the burden of a community weighed heavily on her shoulders, she stood on the precipice, torn between 2 worlds. Hope, fear, and determination swirled within her as another neighbor shot her a disappointed glare. Would she embrace the unlikely alliance of a mafia boss and his band of 200, or would her steadfast morality risk everything she held dear? The path ahead shimmered with uncertainty, yet illuminated by the power of unity against injustice. Emma felt the gravity of the moment suffocating her. The understandable cries of her neighbors echoed in her mind, reminding her of the fragile tightrope she walked. A mafia boss, with an army of followers, stood at her doorstep, ready to take on the world for her sake. She hesitated, fear gnawing at her gut. Could this truly be the answer to her community's plight? The stark reality stared back at her, a choice that could shift everything. As she surveyed the faces surrounding Vincent, she felt a shiver ripple through her. These were people marked by strength and loyalty, the kind of force she'd only seen in movies. Yet, there was something different about them. They were here for her, not for some twisted agenda. They stood with purpose, hearts beat in unison, their spirits ignited by the desire to protect the community they all had claimed. "Are you serious?" Emma asked, her voice a whisper caught in the wind. She scanned their determined eyes. You really want to help? Vincent stepped forward, his voice smooth and steady. There's more power in our numbers than in our mistakes. We can fight back. We can save this place. Her heart swelled with an unexpected rush of gratitude, yet doubt clouded her mind. But you're you. This is a dangerous game. What if it backfires? The image of her children flashed before her eyes, their innocent anticipation mingling with the risk. As if sensing her turmoil, a woman with fierce blue hair stepped forward, introducing herself as Lena. We're not the villains you might think we are. We've seen your kindness. We've felt the pulse of this neighborhood. We want to protect it just as you do. Emma glanced at her children peering through the window, blissfully unaware of the chaos that was brewing just outside. It struck her the choice wasn't only hers, it would ripple through their lives too. Maybe this was the action she had always yearned for, the push she needed to not just exist in her neighborhood, but to defend it. However, the weight of judgment from others pressed down like a lead blanket. What would the other mothers say? Or those neighbors who once shared coffee and kind words? Think about it, Vincent urged softly, taking a step closer. History is written by those who dare to fight back. I'm here to fight for you, for all of us. She could feel the storm of emotions swirling inside her. The hope of something better, the fear of betrayal, and the weight of responsibility all crashed together. Okay, she breathed, voice trembling slightly. Let's talk logistics. What do you have in mind? A mix of cheers and nods erupted from the crowd, and for the first time in weeks, she felt an ember of hope ignite within her. But the shadow of doubt loomed larger. What would this alliance demand of her? What ties would she fray or ignite anew? As night began to fall, Emma's pulse quickened, her decision solidifying. This wasn't just about saving a community, it was about redefining herself in ways she never thought possible. But just as possibilities loomed, so did the lurking threats. In the distance, she spotted a group of approaching figures, their silhouettes outlined by the fading sunlight. Were they allies or enemies? Her heart pounded. The moment of truth was about to arrive. Would she stand firm in her new alliance, or would she face the darkness alone? Emma's instincts screamed at her to retreat, but she stood rooted on her porch, scanning the shadows ahead. The figures drew closer, 2 male and 1 female, their movements fluid yet deliberate. The whispers of her neighbors filled the air, a chorus of encouragement mixed with worry. There's no turning back now, she murmured to herself, summoning whatever courage was left inside her. As the dynamic silhouettes transitioned into sharper focus, she could see their features more clearly. Were they friends or foes? She took a deep breath, allowing the chill of the evening air to brace her for what was coming. Stay close, Vincent instructed, his voice low but commanding. He positioned himself slightly in front of Emma, a guardian in that moment. She marveled at the protective stance he took for her, attempting to make sense of the whirlwind she was caught in. Emma's heart sank as she recognized one of the approaching figures. It was Marco, someone she'd known casually from the neighborhood barbershop. His greasy hair and bulked physique counteracted any memories of the boy she once saw after school, bothering the barbers for free haircuts. But now Marco walked with a menacing air, flanked by a pair of tough-looking companions. Marco? What are you doing here? She called out, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound steady. His piercing gaze held a mix of defiance and disdain. We came for Vincent, he growled, stepping up onto the porch with an attitude that felt less like an invitation and more like a challenge. He's been stirring up trouble in our territory. You think you can just waltz in here and play hero? Emma felt the goosebumps rise on her arms. We're trying to protect our community, Marco. Is that so wrong? The other two stepped forward, glaring at the group now assembled around her. The tension hung thick like the humidity just before a summer storm. She noticed the cautious gazes of her neighbors, a mixture of fear and defiance in their eyes. Vincent straightened his back, his frame vast and imposing. You think this is a threat? We're here to claim our neighborhood back. The game's changed, Marco. You're either with us or against us. Marco barked out a laugh, the sound sharp and furious, as if cutting through the air like a knife. This still belongs to us, Vincent. You think your little gang can take us on? There's more to this life than you realize. Then let's find out who's right, Vincent replied, a fire igniting in his words. But remember, blood doesn't run cold without a price. Emma felt her stomach churn. This was escalating faster than she anticipated. She didn't want a showdown, not on her porch, not in her neighborhood. Enough, she commanded, her voice steady this time. We're all neighbors here. Let us not do this. Marco scoffed, rolling his eyes. You think you can play peacemaker? You're a fool to think you can change anything. But something deep within Emma ignited too. Maybe it was despair, maybe hope, or a mixture of both. She took a step forward, eyes blazing with determination. Then let us figure this out. What do you want? Marco paused, surprise flickering through his expression, his bravado faltering. The crowd held their collective breath, waiting to see if this crack in his facade could be exploited. Simple, Marco replied, his tone shifting, almost contemplative. If you want peace, prove yourself. Stand with us when it counts. Show us that your little movement means something. Her heart raced. Could she really play this dangerous game? The lines were starting to blur, and her path felt more uncertain than ever. I need to think, she stammered, the pressure swelling in her chest, but before she could retreat, a shift in the atmosphere screamed at her from the shadows. A third party was entering the frame, a group she couldn't identify, but their presence loomed over the situation like a storm cloud. Their intentions were masked, and Emma's gut twisted with a foreboding sense of dread. What was happening? Was this the beginning of the end or merely the start of something she couldn't control? Go home, Emma, before the real storm hits, Vincent murmured, his voice low as he kept his gaze trained on the newcomers. Home. That thought lingered heavily. But would returning offer safety, or simply delay the inevitable? As the unfamiliar figures moved closer, her pulse raced with an uncertainty she couldn't shake. Was she ready to face the storm brewing on her doorstep? Would her resolve hold, or would it shatter like glass in the gathering dark? The crowd shifted uneasily as the newcomers advanced, their postures tense, eyes scanning the scene as if they were predators assessing their territory. Emma could feel the weight of anticipation pressing down, the palpable tension tightening her throat. Every instinct screamed for her to step back, but she remained right where she was, torn between the urge to flee and the desperate need to protect her community. Who are you? A voice called out, cutting through the tension. It was Anna, one of the neighbors, her voice shaking as she clutched her daughter's hand tightly. The little girl shivered, glancing back and forth between the two rival factions like a deer caught in headlights. Just friends of Marco, here to see how serious the opposition is, the tallest of the newcomers replied, a smirk dancing on his lips. He was lean but muscular, tattoos snaking up his arms like creeping vines. Friends? Emma echoed incredulously. You came here for a fight, didn't you? We only fight when provoked, he said with a chuckle, but the glint in his eyes told a different story. The air grew heavier, charged with a sense of impending violence. Marco stepped forward, drawing a line in the sand. You shouldn't have brought them. We can't have outsiders making waves. Emma clenched her fists, fighting the surge of panic that threatened to swallow her whole. This was her home. She couldn't allow it to fall apart. Isn't that what all of this is about? She shouted, trying to pierce the fog of hostility. Fighting for a place that we can all call home? The shadows of doubt crept in around her, but she pushed through, searching for a way to turn tension into dialogue. Let us talk about this. Give us a chance, please. A murmur rippled through the onlookers. There were those who nodded, emboldened by her defiance. But then Marco opened his mouth, and the sound of laughter mixed with spite poured out, like ice water splashing against her resolve. Talk? That's a good one, Emma. You think words change reality? He gestured around passionately. This is the real world, not some friendly neighborhood get-together. When you come into our territory, you must understand the consequences. Their words hung in the air like a thick fog, muffling Emma's thoughts. She understood the stakes had never been higher. It was easy to get swept up in the anger and fight back, but she wasn't just representing herself anymore. Dozens of neighbors were behind her, hearts pounding in sync. Maybe there's another way, Vincent interrupted, stepping forward, visibly uneasy but resolute. What if we can come to some agreement? We're not your enemies. We want to help clean things up around here, collaborate for a better community. The tattooed man snorted, amusement etched in his features. You think you can negotiate with the likes of us? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Emma's heart raced. She felt herself on the brink of a precipice, the weight of the entire community resting on her shoulders. And you have no idea what we're capable of. We're not going to just roll over and let you take what's not yours. A low rumble of agreement rippled through the crowd behind her, spurring her confidence just as it threatened to crumble. Just then, a sharp gasp emerged from the edge of the gathering. It cut through the atmosphere, drawing everyone's attention. The newcomers turned as one figure, cloaked in shadows, stumbled into the light flickering from the porch. Isaiah! Emma shouted, recognizing the figure as a beloved youth from the neighborhood. Everyone's eyes widened as he collapsed to the ground, struggling to stand. The newcomer, once an ally, was now a glaring symbol of the escalating stakes and dangers they all faced. His voice was ragged, fear evident in his eyes. They got to me, it's worse than we thought. Emma's heart sank. As he lay there, the weight of what had been brewing behind the scenes was clearer than ever. Was that a warning? Marco mused, leaning back, eyes narrowing. Emma realized the fight was no longer just about neighborhood pride, it was a battle. For survival. How could they stand a chance against growing forces that they didn't fully understand? The murmurs burgeoned into chaos as everyone processed what this meant, confusion and concern bubbling to the surface like boiling water. Stay with us, Isaiah, she shouted, fear tightening her chest as she rushed to his side. As she knelt beside him, her resolve hardened. She wouldn't just let darkness swallow her community. But what would it take to protect those she loved? The chill of doubt settled over her. Could they really stand against such tangled interests and threats? And as the shadows crept closer, the initial confrontation suddenly felt like mere ripples in a far darker ocean. Emma's heart raced. Was this the real beginning of the end, or a path toward salvation? Isaiah's breaths came in short, desperate gasps as Emma knelt beside him. The crowd was a murmur of panic, eyes darting from Isaiah to the newcomers and then back again as the tension shifted again, twisting like a knife. Emma's mind raced. What do you mean it's worse? She urged, grasping his hand tightly, willing him to hold on. I saw them. They're planning something. A takeover. His words came out in stuttered breaths. They know we're weak right now. They won't stop until they control everything. Fear coursed through Emma like ice. It was true. They had been struggling, their once tight-knit community now frayed and vulnerable. The newcomers were hungry for power, and they could taste blood. Behind them, the tattooed man trailed a devilish grin that made Emma's skin crawl. You hear that, folks? Our friend is trying to scare you into submission. But I have a better idea. His voice rang out, dripping with mockery. Why don't we make this a little fun? A few of his companions laughed, and the darkness lurking in Emma's chest clenched tighter. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore. It was a game for them one she hadn't signed up for. Enough. Marco shouted, his voice booming like thunder. We're not here to play. We stand our ground in our home. You'll regret underestimating us. Emma's heart fluttered. Marco had been one of her fiercest allies, but this dark path he was edging towards scared her. Regret was the last thing they could afford right now. We need to work together, she pleaded with him, looking for guidance, for some sign of reason. Suddenly, Isaiah coughed, and blood splattered onto the ground beneath him. The crowd gasped, a deep intake of breath that silenced the chaos. Emma looked down at the crimson droplets, feeling each one twist the knife further into her heart. Isaiah, please, just hold on. We'll do something to help you. Her voice trembled, panic creeping into her tone. But how could she assure him when she felt so helpless? Isaiah's fingers tightened around hers, his resolve shining even from the brink. Emma, listen. You've got to wake everyone up. They're not just here for the property. They want to break us. But if you stand your ground, if you bring everyone together. He drew in a ragged breath, it might just be enough. His words hung in the air, planting a seed of determination deep within her. To fight back wasn't just about pride, It was about protecting the people she loved. "We won't give in," she said, looking at the crowd. "We need to unite. We need to show them we are stronger together." A low rumble of agreement began to rise from the crowd. Emma's chest swelled with hope, pushing her past the swirling chaos. Isaiah's right. We can't let fear divide us. We're here for each other. This is our community. Eyes darted around, some faces beginning to nod as the words echoed in their hearts. Emma propelled herself to her feet, glancing back at the newcomers with new intensity. "If you think you can break us, you're mistaken. We'll stand our ground." The tattooed man's smirk faltered slightly, and for a moment, uncertainty flickered across his face. The crowd felt the shift, the air thickening with renewed courage. Emma was surprised. Was it truly working? But before she could finish the thought, the tall man lurched forward. "You think this is a game? You have no idea what you're up against, girl." He stepped closer, glancing over his shoulder to his companions. "Consider this your last chance to back down." Emma's heart raced, the stakes soaring higher than ever. She needed a plan, something beyond words and determination. But what? Then a sudden notion sparked in her mind, fierce and unyielding. It wouldn't just be words this time. They'd need to show power and unity on the streets. "Everyone, we need to gather what we can, band together. Tonight, we make our stand," she urged, energy blooming in her chest. Around her, the fire ignited in the eyes of her neighbors. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for Isaiah and for our home." But would it be enough to summon the strength they needed? The darkness lurking around was relentless, and she wondered, could they truly rise up, or had they already sealed their fates? The tension swelled, a thick fog of uncertainty hovering above their heads as the newcomers watched, hungry for the inevitable clash to come. Emma could see it in their eyes. They would not back down without a fight. But neither would she. The gripping question wrapped itself around her thoughts. Would they stand as one, or would their moment slip through their fingers like sand? The night wrapped around them, dark and heavy, as Emma rallied her neighbors. The shadows of despair clung to the air, but she felt a flicker of hope flicker along with the torches they had hastily gathered. She could sense the energy shift as the murmurs grew into voices, gaining strength, creating a promise of solidarity. "Let us take back what is ours," Emma called, her spirit blazing, every word ignited with urgency. "For Isaiah. For our community." Each face she passed shone in the dim light, faces she'd known since childhood, faces that shared in both the laughter and the struggles. But a knot of fear twisted in her stomach. Could they really do this? A fleet of new recruits had descended on their home, beasts of greed hiding behind weak smiles. They were a bunch with no love for the land or its people. Their eyes were set on power, expecting to crush any grit they might find. "Emma." Marco's voice cut through her thoughts as he moved closer, urgency written across his brow. "We need to make a plan. This isn't just about shouting louder than them. If we want to stand our ground, we need strategy." She nodded, feeling the weight of his seriousness seep into her resolve. He was right. They needed more than just bold declarations. They needed to show the newcomers who they truly were, a family forged in hard work and stubborn love. "Let us spread out," she suggested, glancing around at the crowd now transforming into a united front. "We know this area better than they do. If we can draw them to us, we can control the fight. We'll use our homes, our streets. Let them think they have the upper hand." The group burst into action, splitting up under an unspoken agreement. Emma's heart raced, echoing the sound of footsteps pounding against the pavement. They were taking their community back. Her blood thrummed with adrenaline. Suddenly, Isaiah's voice sliced through her determination, soft yet full of fervor. "Emma, don't forget why we're fighting. It's not just a battle, it's our home. And our people." His gaze was earnest, pulling her out of the frantic rush. She met his eyes, framing the entire scene in her mind. She could already see them more than just a community. They were a family, each individual a thread of hope. "You're right, Isaiah," she replied. "Our fight reflects our love and unity. We'll protect each other, no matter what happens." As the evening deepened, she led part of the group, moving carefully through back streets and alleyways, keen on remaining unseen. The old factory was just ahead, a looming shadow they could use. It had once been a hub of industry, but tonight, it was more than a relic. It was the birthplace of their revolt. Emma turned to the others. "This is where we'll gather our strength. We'll set traps and barriers. They will not expect us to hit back." Each member of the group nodded, the tension in the air thickening into a palpable pulse of energy. Hours passed, minutes stretched into action and planning under the flickering torches. They carried all kinds of makeshift weapon sticks, metal pipes, whatever could be wielded in their defense. Emma could hardly believe the courage that surged through them, lifting her spirits higher. As they quieted to take positions, the first noises of disruption crept into the night air. She felt the presence of the newcomers, a heavy thrum vibrating through the earth beneath her. "Here they come," Marco whispered, a sense of anticipation woven through his words. Emma held her breath, straining to see the shapes moving through the dark. Her heart pounded, each beat echoing the fear that pulsed through her body, and just then, as the shadows loomed larger, Emma caught sight of Isaiah at the edge of the factory. Though weak, he managed a brave smile, giving her strength when she needed it most. It was a reminder that they weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other, and that made all the difference. But as the figures emerged, the familiar outline of their tattooed leader at the fore, a chilling realization swept over her. This was only the beginning of a fight. That would change everything. They had one chance to either unite or break apart. "Are you ready?" Marco's voice drew her attention, but she could only see the chaos ahead. Her mind raced, questioning if they were truly prepared. And in that uncertainty, a new thought slipped into her mind as the crowd held its breath, waiting for the clash. What if this wasn't just a battle for their homes, but a battle for who they could become together? The shadows loomed closer, the air crackling with tension, as the dark night awaited the storm about to break loose. Emma clenched her fists, ready to embrace whatever was to come. Would they withstand the tide, or was this the moment that would turn them from a community into a legend? The air thickened with tension as the first figures stepped into the radius of their lights. Emma squeezed Marco's arm, grounding herself in the moment. Behind her, the whispers of her neighbors faded into a resolute silence, all eyes fixed on the encroaching shadows. There they were, 6 or 7 of them, emerged from the darkness, their leader strutting forward. His tattooed arms flexed under the faint glow, a cruel twist to his lips making Emma's skin crawl. "You think you can fight us?" He jeered, laughter spilling from his lips like a wave crashing onto the shore, threatening, unforgiving. But Emma stood firm. She glanced at Isaiah, his smile replaced by a mask of determination, and instantly, her resolve ignited. "We can," she shouted, her voice cutting through the night air. "You're trespassing. This is our home." The words hung heavy for a heartbeat, a challenge poised on the cusp of conflict. Their opponents snickered, emboldened by their numbers. But Emma felt her neighbors beside her, a fierce warmth rising in her chest. "Let us show them," Marco shouted, raising a makeshift weapon above his head. It was just a pipe, but it marked the moment they all needed. With a synchronized breath, the group surged forward, hearts beating as one. The first clash rang out, echoes of metal on metal slicing through the night. Emma's feet danced through the chaos. She saw Marco swinging with purpose, his focus fierce. To her left, one of their neighbors stumbled, but quickly regained her footing. And Isaiah, he stood tall, a shield of strength in a sea of uncertainty. In the chaos, every swing, every clash reverberated through every fiber of Emma's being. Fear and adrenaline intertwined. Her heart raced as she darted in and out of swaying bodies, searching for a vantage point. The factory shadows swallowed the newcomers like a growing storm, and for a moment, it felt almost surreal. As bodies tumbled, both sides struggling for dominance, Emma spotted something, a water pipe overhead, rusted and weak. A flicker of inspiration sparked in her mind. "We need to split them," she shouted, adrenaline turning her voice into a clarion call. "Head to the left. We'll collapse their flank." The shift in strategy had immediate results. The neighbors turned, flooding toward the left side of their perimeter with a renewed sense of purpose. Emma joined them, fear turning into a fierce determination to protect every single soul fighting beside her. They were far from perfect, but their hearts beat louder as one. But just as things began to tip in their favor, a singular figure darted from the sidelines. Emma's breath caught as she recognized the newcomer, the tattooed leader, breaking away from the melee. "After them," he ordered, eyes hungrily seeking out the mass of her determined friends. He was fast, calculated, and his presence sent a jolt of panic through her. This wasn't just any battle. This was a battle for their very existence. And in the swirl of fear, she saw the glimmers of a heart, yet to be extinguished. "Isaiah!" she screamed, desperation lining her voice as she turned back towards her friend. He caught her eye, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They needed to plant their roots against the storm together, but right then, fate turned unpredictable. As the tattooed leader got closer, a neighbor, one Emma recognized from childhood, lunged forward, trying to tackle him. A deafening crash echoed out, reverberating off cold brick walls. The young man fell hard, his courage unwavering, but the leader simply sidestepped, grinning in the chaos. "Fool!" he spat, and the dark smirk tightened Emma's chest with dread. Everything could spiral at once. One wrong move could shatter their unity. "Focus," Emma called, amplifying her voice above the fray, struggling to hold her ground. "Together, we can still take control. Don't let fear take the lead." They closed ranks, partners in a stubborn dance, each swing of their makeshift weapons pounding down fear while igniting hope. It was time to forge their path forward, to fight as a singular, unbreakable force. But before they could fully gain traction, a piercing shout rang through the chaotic cacophony, a call far stronger. "We will turn the tide." The cry wasn't just an echo of their desperate will, it was something else. Emma felt it, the silent bond forging among them. Was this moment more than a fight? Would this change everything and solidify them as more than neighbors? Determination edged her thoughts, yet doubt whispered softly beneath. How far would they go for each other? And as the tide of shadowy figures pushed back, it was not just their homes they fought for, but their very souls. She held on to that thought, contemplating the possibility. Could they become more than a community? Could they rise above the chaos and emerge victorious, not just in this battle, but in becoming a beacon of hope? Each strike, every clash, pressed the question deeper into her heart, and as the tension swelled, Emma braced for whatever came next. Emma's heart hammered in her chest. The tattooed leader lunged, and the crowd around her surged like a living wave. They were all fighting, pouring out every ounce of courage they had. Marco swung his pipe again, connecting with a harsh thud. The sound sent a ripple through the air, like the echo of their determination, but the tension escalated. More shadows spilled from the darkness. Each figure moved with cruel precision, and Emma felt the chill of fear creeping in. They were outnumbered. Her mind raced, weighing their chances of victory against the growing tide. "Stay close. Don't break," she shouted, trying to rally her friends as she dodged a second attacker. He swung wildly, and she ducked just in time. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, sharpening her focus. Then she spotted Isaiah at the edge of the fray, grappling with another opponent. Their eyes met, and gravity pulled them together, despite the chaos. The connection ignited something in her. They were in this together, and if they faltered, everything could collapse. With a renewed burst of energy, Emma weaved through the crowd and reached Isaiah. "We have to flank them from the right," she urged, breathless yet determined. He nodded, fire lighting his eyes as they pulled themselves together. The neighbors around them began to listen, their movements gathering momentum. A flicker of hope danced through the chaotic sea of bodies. They formed a tighter circle, the clatter of makeshift weapons ringing in unison, rallying around their shared goal. But just as they made progress, the tattooed leader, now angrier than ever, barreled toward them. "You think you've won?" he sneered, spitting words laced with venom. "You're nothing." In that moment, Emma could see him, the tough exterior cracking, the layer of arrogance slipping. He was scared, too. She realized that fear fueled both sides, but it was about how they chose to wield it. Everyone. We're stronger than they are when we stand together. Emma bellowed, the weight of her words carving through the clash of metal and screams. She felt her neighbors responding, their spirits rising, refusing to be defined by the darkness. They needed this moment. The tide turned as they swept toward the right flank, pushing back against the tide of shadows. Emma's heart soared with each small victory, each step pushing them closer to reclaiming their territory. But then out of the chaos, she caught a glimpse the young man who had lunged at the tattooed leader was struggling at the edge of the fight. She felt a pang in her chest as she watched him gasping for breath, blood trickling from a gash on his arm. "Hang on!" she shouted, but the group was already moving away, swept by the momentum of the new offensive. She had to do something before his bravery cost him everything. "Stay here," Emma yelled to Isaiah, giving him a forceful look. She broke free and raced toward the wounded neighbor, dodging strikes from both sides. As she reached him, she halted, kneeling beside him. "You've got to get up." There was desperation in her voice. "Fight. We need you." But the pain was etched on his face, and doubt clouded his eyes. Emma's heart raced with fear, both for him and what it meant for their fight. "Please, if we don't win this, it's over for all of us." She touched his arm gently, offering strength through her presence. "We cannot let fear win." His gaze shifted from the ground to her eyes, and something flickered inside him, a spark of determination. "Okay," he breathed, struggling to rise. She could see it. His will was reigniting, fueled by her presence. But before they could get back to the fight, the tattooed leader aimed a blow towards the center of their group, determined to sow chaos again. Emma's heart sank as she cried out, "Isaiah, we need you." With renewed purpose, Isaiah rallied the others with a fierce shout, but as the leader advanced, Emma felt the weight of the moment compressing around them. They had to hold the line, not just for themselves, but for every soul intertwined in this fight. Just as Emma prepared to join the fray again, a roar echoed through the night, unlike anything she had heard before. The sound was primal, shaking the very ground beneath them, and with it came the realization, would this be their moment of reckoning, or their final stand? As the question hung in the air, the crushing weight settled on her chest. What awaited them in this battle could change everything forever. The ground trembled, and the roar pulsed through Emma's veins, a sound both terrifying and exhilarating. She turned, scanning the edges of the fray, her heart racing. What had caused such a sound? It didn't just shake the earth, it shook every ounce of fear from her core. The tattooed leader faltered, his bravado momentarily replaced with confusion. For a split second, everything hung in the balance. Emma could feel the energy of the crowd shift, a collective heartbeat that beat in rhythm with her own. They sensed it too, the shift in power, the surge of something greater than themselves. Isaiah, emboldened by the spirit of defiance roaring around them, turned to Emma, his brow set in fierce determination. "What do we do?" "We push forward," Emma declared, her voice rising above the chaos. She felt the adrenaline pumping through her, igniting a fire in her belly. "Together. We're not just fighting back, we're reclaiming our home." She reached out for the young man beside her, who had finally managed to rise with her encouragement. His face was pale, but there was a spark in his eyes that hadn't been there before. With a nod, she made eye contact with others in their makeshift front line, urging them forward. As they began to advance, the sound grew louder, raw and untamed, almost like a battle cry. The shadows at the edges of the fight became restless, shifting and churning as if something was pushing them back. Emma could hardly comprehend what was transpiring, but she did know one thing: it felt like hope. Then, from the depths of the alley behind them, a massive figure emerged. The crowd parted, revealing a man tall, intimidating, with an army of allies at his back. His presence commanded the very air around them. Emma couldn't believe her eyes. It was Luca, the infamous boss, known for his ruthless grip on the streets. But right now, he seemed more like a force of nature than the feared legend. When the tattooed leader caught sight of Luca, his face twisted into a mask of horror. "What are you doing here?" he stammered, trying to regain his stance of authority, Luca stepped forward, unwavering, fierce, and resolute. "This ends now. You've terrorized our people long enough." His voice was deep, echoing against the walls as if every word struck with weight. The crowd gasped, the shift in power palpable. Emma could hardly articulate what she was feeling. This man, who had been their adversary, was now a beacon of hope. His loyal followers surged behind him, eyes blazing with a fire of their own, ready to take back their city. "Your reign of fear is over," Luca shouted, pointing directly at the tattooed leader. Emma's heart raced faster than ever now. They had a chance. With a loud battle cry, the crowd lunged forward, the energy electric, fueled by the anger of years oppressed, united in a singular moment. Emma pushed beside Isaiah, her words spilling out in a cascade of determination. "We fight for every life, every home. Together." The forces collided and chaos erupted anew. But as Emma thrust herself into the thick of it, she felt like a part of something bigger than just survival. It was about holding onto the light, about reclaiming their lost love for a community that refused to crumble. But amid the continued fury and adrenaline, Emma's mind flickered back to the tattooed leader. Was his facade truly broken, or would he fight back with even more desperation? A hand on her shoulder suddenly pulled her from her thoughts. "Emma." It was Isaiah, urgency in his voice. "We need to move." He's regrouping. As they pressed deeper into the fray, Emma felt a storm brewing within: fear, excitement, uncertainty. Would they have the strength to sustain this push, or would the darkness find a way to reclaim its hold? Now, standing together, would they face their final challenge against the forces of fear? As they surged forward, the echoes of that primal roar rang in her ears. Was it hope, or was it only the beginning of a much fiercer battle to come? The night felt electric, charged with a palpable hope as Emma and her neighbors charged forward with renewed strength. The fear that had clutched her heart loosened its grip just enough for hope to shine through. They weren't just a group of people fighting against a common threat. They were family. Emma could see it in their determined faces, the unwavering spirit rising within each soul locked in this struggle. They were no longer just fighting for their homes. They were fighting for the lives intertwined in the fabric of their community. With each step forward, they carved out their destiny, echoing the chants of unity that rippled through the crowd. As the tide of chaos surged around them, the tattooed leader, flanked by those who had once seemed invincible, faltered under the weight of Luca's fierce declaration. The darkened shadows from the opposition began to tremble, confusion etching their faces. It was as if they were finally seeing the heart and strength of a community that refused to bow or cower. Emma rallied her neighbors, her voice steady and strong. "This is our moment," she shouted, her heart thundering with conviction. "We stand as one. Together, we are unstoppable." With those words, momentum swung back into their favor. The crowd responded with murmurs that escalated into deafening shouts of agreement. "Together! Together!" they cried, echoing Emma's spirit and determination. Luca surged forward, his confidence radiating like a beacon. The fierce loyalty of his followers matched the fervor of Emma's neighbors. They fought side by side, new alliances forged in the fires of necessity. Emma caught sight of Isaiah battling bravely beside Marco, their spirits vibrant, united in a common goal. With each swing and clash, they pushed the attackers back, reclaiming their streets, their pride, their very essence. Yet in the chaos, Emma's gaze snapped to the tattooed leader again, rage and fear flaring in his eyes. He was not done yet. "You think this makes you stronger?" he bellowed, voice cracking with frustration. "You're just kids playing house." Emma clenched her fists, feeling the fiery spirit ignite within her. She was ready to confront him, not just with defiance, but with the love and strength of her community. Pushing through the thrumming energy, she approached him, heart racing. "We've played house long enough. This isn't just a neighborhood, this is our home. We're done running scared." He sneered, contempt dripping from his lips. "What do you think you can do? You're nothing." "Maybe," Emma said, standing tall, "but we are stronger than you'll ever know. Together, we're everything." And in that moment, the energy shifted dramatically. The surrounding crowd rumbled with battle cries, hearts pounding as one. The tattooed leader faltered, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Emma recognized the moment this was their chance to solidify hope and transform fear into action. The tide of confidence and camaraderie was overwhelming now, sweeping through the masses. Feeling invincible, Emma called out, "Push forward. Show them what we're made of." They surged, newfound power coursing through every fighter. The atmosphere crackled, electricity filling the air as they met the opposition head-on. The force of their unity surged through the fray like wildfire, each person embodying the spirit of their community. And then, in the cacophony of chaos, something monumental happened. The tattooed crew began stumbling back, faltering under sustained persistence. Emma could feel the shift, could smell victory wafting through the air as the realization spread among her neighbors that they could actually win this. In disbelief, the tattooed leader glanced back at his allies, realization dawning that they could no longer hold their ground. "Retreat," he shouted, the authority in his voice shaking like a leaf in the wind. But Emma was not about to let them slip away. "We will not let you take our home any longer. This is our community. Our lives," she bellowed, fighters rallying behind her. With renewed vigor, the group pressed forward, forcing the shadows to turn tail and run. The fierce cries of victory rang out as the first rays of dawn broke through the gloom, illuminating the now victorious stands of Emma and her neighbors. Breathless and wide-eyed, Emma found herself surrounded by friends. Marco, Isaiah, and others lifted her, tears of joy slipping down their cheeks, their faces painted with triumph. They had conquered not just a physical battle, they had emerged transformed, a family solidified by courage. As they basked in the soft glow of the new dawn, Emma felt hope wash over her in waves. The fight had forged a new beginning for them all, a promise that they would defend their home against any storm that dared to challenge it. "Together," someone shouted, and the crowd erupted in cheers, echoing through the once quiet streets. Emma smiled, gazing at lawn signs and smiling faces, realizing she had found something powerful within herself, a warrior spirit ignited by love for her loved ones, driving her forward, showing her that community was an indomitable force. The moment solidified, a reminder that life isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving together, hearts united in strength against any odds. And at that conclusion, Emma raised her arms high, echoing a sentiment etched in every heart gathered there. This is only the beginning. Now it's your turn to help unleash more stories like this. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next amazing tale. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help get these stories out there. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Let's keep the conversation going. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support is vital to our community.